Hello everybody and welcome on into Sidelines presented by Visit Potter Tioga. I'm Drew Patrick. On today's episode, we talk cross-country championship season, we talk the playoff push for field hockey, plus we preview the men's basketball season, which is right around the corner. Welcome back to Sidelines. Let's talk cross-country as we have entered championship part of the season. And joining me at the desk, Ben Chambers, Carly Daniels. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So indeed, the start of championship season coming up here this Friday, the PSAC Championships at Kutztown. What are you most looking forward to in this meet?
Showcasing all of our training. I feel like PSAC is like one of the biggest meets for us, at least for me. And I'm excited to see how our team performs on the women's side and the men's.
Absolutely, I agree. I think that our team, speaking for the men, is super young. So I'm really excited to see how they compete this week at PSACs.
It's interesting, too, you mentioned that, and the growth that both of your teams have really shown from the start of the season to now. Carly, you have been put in kind of a leadership role, as well as you've been with this young team. What have you seen in the growth and development of your groups?
I think that being so young, it kind of forces them to almost mature faster. So it's like they're really adapting to things that maybe when I was a freshman that I struggled with. But they're all coming along so nicely, and it's great to see.
I agree. I mean, when I look at the team, I see a lot of responsibility. A lot of maturity. They're showing up to practice and putting in the work, and I think it's going to result in a good PSAC race.
So how have you guys saw that your leadership role has been defined this year, too, with a lot of young teams and with being that senior Ben and with being really one of the leaders for a young team? How has your leadership, either style or leadership techniques, kind of changed throughout the season?
Well, yeah, being a leader, I mean, you have to provide an example for people to follow. So if you're not showing up to practice or doing your job, then what kind of example is that? That doesn't make, the young kids want to come to practice either. So I think, again, maybe if we weren't ready for a leadership position, it kind of forced us to mature to that spot and be, who our team needs us to be.
I feel like in addition to setting an example, I feel like it's more about not setting yourself above your teammates. It's more about being a cohesive unit rather than saying, oh, I'm the leader, I'm above. More of a cohesive unit and putting in the work with your teammates alongside of them.
So this week with the PSAC Championships, obviously with a big meet like this, and really just historically in this race specifically, it goes out fast, and it goes out faster than a lot of other races. What do you guys have to do to kind of either counter that or try to strategize around knowing that it's going to go out fast?
So last weekend when we raced, our race plan was to go out intentionally faster than we were supposed to practice that PSAC feel in an effort to not do that at PSAC. So we do it a little wrong to not do it wrong at PSACs, is what Coach said. So that's how we've been prepping for that. But like you said, it goes out fast, and sometimes you just get caught up, especially with a big group of people there. You just get swept away sometimes.
Absolutely. I feel like it's a lot of self-recognition. You have to take the time to step back and be like, wow, I am going out too fast, and take that time to slow down and get to your pace, or else you're not going to perform as well as you may have hoped.
So obviously that's kind of a mental thing and the mental aspect of the race. Is that an easy kind of switch to flip, or do you have to kind of fight your mind, seeing everyone go out and be like, all right, slow down here? Is that an easy thing to kind of fix?
It's definitely hard because you're right. Your initial reaction is, well, everybody else is going, so I should go with them. But at the same time, you have to remember you still have, you know, in our case, 2-3 miles to go, that, you know, you can't be going out at 5:30 pace because you're going to be dead come the second and third miles.
Right, and for us, that would be in the first mile. We would have 4 additional miles, so everything we've been training for this whole semester is to put together that one good race at PSACs and then again at regionals. So that would really throw everything off if we weren't to back that down. So you definitely have to fight your mind there in the early stages of the race so you can put everything together to come together at the finish line.
So this is going to be kind of a new course for you guys to see. Does that play into strategy at all, not seeing the course until really the day of the race? Or do you guys kind of approach every meet the same way?
I've actually raced there in high school. My high school raced there, so I'm a little familiar with the course. But I know in the past, I think it's hard when you don't know what the course is and what to expect. Like last weekend, we had no idea what the course was, and we got there and there's hills. And we're like, oh no, not hills. But yeah, I think knowing the course helps make you more confident because you know what to expect.
And I think as well as knowing the course definitely helps, but it's also having trust in Coach Mike because he has set up a training plan starting all the way back in the summer to get us ready for this championship race, knowing it's at Kutztown. So it's more trusting in that as well.
So let's talk about the race plan coming up. We talked about the start and the quick start it's going to be, but what is your mindset and your plan for this championship race?
Well, like Coach had told us, we have to stay a little bit more reserved in the first mile in hopes of not burning ourselves out in the beginning, and then kind of holding a steady pace in the second mile and then progressing a little faster through the third to try to, you know, pick off some people. Personally, I like to think about passing people, and especially at this race when there's going to be a ton of people there, it'll be easy to achieve that. Yeah, and then team-wise, I think that our goals as a team is just to place well, you know, better than we have in the past. So I'm excited.
Great.
I think for the guys, the race plan is the same. It's to get out hard, but not to overexert yourself, and then to increase all the way up into the end. And then as a team, I'd say it's just to do our personal best. With a young team, it's hard to put together against these teams that are full of very talented runners, juniors and seniors, but we're holding our own very well, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Hey, I'm excited as well. Should be a fun Friday championship race, absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time and stopping by.
Well, thank you for having us.
And Sidelines continues after this. Do not go anywhere. While this semester will look a little different, we're taking steps to promote a safe campus environment and to help us return to normal faster. You'll notice students and employees wearing face masks that cover their nose and mouth in order to keep you safe. We ask that you do the same to protect your fellow Mounties. Face masks are required inside all campus buildings and should be worn when visiting locations outside of campus as well. Mounties, we're all in this together.
It's all part of Mother Nature's perfect blend, the keystone of the Keystone State. Visit Potter Tioga, a 2-county scenic outdoor haven conveniently located, yet worlds apart. A place where you can kick back, unwind, and forget about the pressures of life. Disconnect and reconnect with your friends, family, or even yourself while surrounded by nature's beauty. So start planning your adventures today at visitpottertioga.com.
Welcome back to Sidelines. Let's talk field hockey as we have head coach Brittany Hansrote here at the desk. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Back again.
Yes,
Loving
indeed.
It. Not complaining.
And it was a fun week this past week. Let's start with IUP coming into town, a ranked team, and this Mansfield team held their own in that game.
Yeah, and got the win and a shutout, so it was awesome. Our mentality has shifted in the past couple games, I would say. It just sort of took a turn. Like, I think we've experienced a lot of growth. We had a lot of tough teams in the beginning of the season, and sort of I called it like we went through the gauntlet, so to say, with some of the top teams in the nation, and I think it just made us stronger, and it made us sort of step up, and then segueing into now this second half of the season, that mentality shift had kind of occurred, where I could see that they actually thought to themselves and believed, oh yeah, we are this good, and yeah, we can take teams, and we can beat them. So that win against IUP was, that was crucial, pivotal.
Is there obviously when a team is ranked in the country, 10 in the country, is there something extra on it, you think, when they look at it and see this team is ranked, but we feel we're better than this team? Is there a switch in the player's mind from your point of view?
I'll say with that particular team, there was, absolutely, yes. With other teams that are maybe 1, 2, and 3 in the country, it might be viewed differently from their standpoint versus a team that's just sneaking in to the national rankings. That was their first time being ranked this season. They had beat Bloomsburg, who we know we could have and should have beat. So I think there was a couple things going on with our girls, and I think they were like, this could be us. You know, this could be us and should be us in the national rankings. So that's what I think I mean with the mentality shift. It was like, yeah, okay, kudos to them for getting ranked, but we're just as good, if not better. And I think we proved that.
And being able to play that game at home, for once, the West is coming to you this week. But how much of a benefit do you think that also has to that, hey, you're the team staying home for that game and not having to travel across the state?
Yeah, for that game too, agreed. It was that being home was really a big thing for us just in that point in the season. I'll say that we always play IUP, whether it's home or away. We always play each other so tough and so good. So in that regards, I wasn't really concerned whether we would have been home or away with that team, but just being home in that moment in the season, I think we just needed that. And then to get that win at home, it was like a good momentum builder for us.
And then this weekend, a little kind of a break in terms of PSAC opponent. You face a non-conference opponent, but it kind of messed up with the schedule as you traveled down there and played pretty early on Saturday at 11 a.m. How do you, as the coach, have to kind of approach that and get everyone ready and motivated when you have your schedule kind of put out of whack?
Yeah. Well, we had traveled down, we did do an overnight for that trip then. We went down Friday, we left at 4. We actually stopped at Penn State. The girls were super excited about that. And like got dinner and got ice cream while we were there and then kept going on our way. So I think we just made it like a little bit of a team bonding trip too, and I think that helped. And it was actually funny enough, that's our only overnight for this season, and since we didn't play last year, think back to the fact that we had like, I realized when we were in the hotel, I was like, oh my gosh, we had so many girls that had never, this was their first overnight, and I'm like, ooh, I didn't think about that. So I was like, why are they just so excited about being in a hotel? So that was funny. So I think it actually turned it into a positive, and then into Saturday, it was homecoming for Frostburg. And it was 50 years of field hockey for field hockey, and there was a lot going on, and so when we arrived, it was just so much going on. So my thing to the team was, I said, listen, we're here to do a job, and that's to win, and we got to stay focused on that. Like, don't let your minds deviate. I know there's a lot going on around you, but we got to stay focused. So that was like the whole MO of that day. Get down to the field, get warmed up, stay focused. It was also raining. It was raining cats and dogs down there too. I know it was up here as well for football and soccer, but so there was like a lot really going on, honestly. And but no, it was a little bit of a rocky start for us, but once we started getting the wheels going, the score was 2-0, so it didn't really reflect, but we were really putting a lot of activity up.
And talking about that too, and what you just said with all that, just the growth of this team. I've said pretty much every time we've talked about how young this team is, how this team really has no seniors, how the juniors are really only in their second year playing, and the growth of this team. What have you seen to really be able to handle themselves in things like that, where there's so many outside noise coming in? What have you seen that aspect of growth?
Oh, well, this team is a team that was a problem for them early on in the season, that they too many times let things that were out of their control affect the way they played in a game. So whether it be the way the team was playing, the way the officials were calling or not calling calls, just the way the weather was, or whatever, just if things were or weren't going well for them. And that was going on, and now it's minimal, like very, very, very minimal, or not at all. Like, we're able to work through it, is what I'd say. If there's a moment of a frustration on a call, we're able to recheck ourselves, whether it be me, a teammate, or just themselves, and I think that in itself is a huge growth. Skill-based wise, it's huge. Communication-wise, it's huge. Just everything all around has been huge and monumental. What I have said about this team is just the way that they go about themselves in never giving up. And so that's something they had with them all season long. So like, that's how we got some of the wins we got from come behind. Like Mercyhurst, even early on, we were down. And just, you can't teach that. Like, that's an intangible thing that you can't teach, and that's something that this team has that is something that I'm really thankful for, because I know the future is so bright since we don't lose anybody and we have a good core group for the next couple of years. I'm like, man, if they're this young and being able to do that now, oh my gosh, I just keep thinking about the future. And then, not only that, what question you had about the growth, like they've been growing just this season alone and been able to get over little hurdles and road bumps, and look at what they're doing. I think back to the beginning when we first talked, I was like, well, I'm really intrigued to see what we're gonna get out of this team, right? Remember that? I was like, I don't know, because I just didn't. And now, like, sitting here seeing, wow, this team, where we're at, we're on the hunt for playoffs. We're in the hunt for playoffs. Not to say that I'm surprised, because I think I knew we had the talent, but it's like, I just didn't know what to expect. And so I'm really proud of how well this team is handling themselves for how young they are and what they're producing.
So I want to highlight a couple of individuals too in terms of growth. I want to start with August Lewis, getting her first career starts this season, having to be a player who replaces an All-American. That's a tough thing, but she has come into her own this season. What have you seen in the growth for her?
A lot. Going into opening weekend, we had split the time between, we were down to 2 goalies, and we split the time, and kudos, because both goalies came in and had worked really hard. And so it was a tough decision at first. And the coaching staff ultimately made that choice with August, and man, from there, she just took off. It was like, holy smokes, like, she's making saves that you can't even believe.
There was that one against IUP
I
that was
know.
phenomenal.
That was nuts. I had to go back and watch the film, because from my angle, it was great, but then from the other side, the press box side angle, I was like, whoa, like just how impressive that was. And kudos to Laura Lawson, former Mansfield field hockey goalkeeper. She's helping us coach, and oh my gosh, she was like, we just went over that this past week, and she comes just with what her schedule allows for work, but she comes and she helps us and works specifically with the goalies, and it has been a game changer to have her on our staff to really focus in on them.
And then the other player this week was selected PSAC
Yeah.
Player of the Week in Alex Esterling. What have you seen in her growth to really be able to be recognized as having one of the premier weeks in the conference?
Yeah, I'm really excited for her specifically, and also I know she is. I talked to her on the phone actually not long ago and just let her know about it. And so she was with her roommates and who are on the team, and they're all really excited. And I think knowing her, she's also so excited for the team. I think this is such a really good look for the team as well to finally get that recognition, and just her hard work that she's put in from her freshman year to now. Like she said this herself, maybe to you, can't remember. She's a totally different player now than she was, I think it was to you, than she was 2 years ago. And so last year with COVID, she was here for one semester, not for both. So we really worked hard on shot variation. Like she was just that typical like blue collar type athlete. And I saw potential in her. I actually found her at Millersville camp. Isn't this funny? I was like, I gotta have her. And so we talked that after the camp was over, and she was really reluctant to coming here and stuff because she's from Delaware, and I think she knows she made the best choice. And we're so thankful we have her because she works really hard, and she's just that like raw athlete that everybody loves to have. And so she's a sponge. So we've been really working on when your back's to the cage, can you get shots off? And a lot of her goals this season have been in that manner. And so it's really coming full circle for her, and the hard work's paying off for not only her, but all of us. So I know she's so excited, and we are too.
And this week coming up is kind of revenge week, so to speak, or you got a couple of revenge games coming up, a second opportunity to see a couple more teams that you've seen before. How do you go and approach that, and what are you looking forward to in those games?
Yeah, so Kutztown's game is definitely revenge for us because 2 years ago we played them in regular season. Very controversial game. Couple calls that were really controversial, and we really should have beat them, and they know it. And we had to go face them in playoffs at their place. So I think for the junior class, this is like triple revenge. And then for the other girls, it's revenge because we played them early on when we were just still so young and just trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And now we have. I mean, they're much improved as well. But I think it's going to be a really tough battle. It really is.
Should be a fun week ahead, and the push to looking for that playoffs. What is going to be the goal to keep everyone focused on that push?
Yeah, well, I think the momentum's in our favor right now. So I think we're kind of really building off of the momentum that we have. We're in a good mental state, I will say. We've been getting some good wins, and we've been producing. And so I think that the confidence is there in our performances on the field. It's just a matter of who's going to get the win, and it's going to come down to little things. So that's going to be my focus to them. Specific teams that we have moving forward is really, we also have Bloomsburg coming up, and that's revenge. That went to shootouts last time. So it's going to be different with different teams that we're going to face. Westchester's going to be a repeat as well. So just Millersville, who we haven't seen. But for some of them, they have everything to lose and we have everything to gain. And then obviously there's others this is revenge for you. You guys could have beat these teams, and now let's actually go and do it. So I think there's going to be a little bit mixed, but the commonality is that we all have the right frame of mind, the winning mentality, and we have the momentum behind us, and they're in a really good headspace. I think they have a lot of confidence now.
It should be a fun week ahead and a fun finish to the season, and thank you so much for taking the time and stopping by.
Thanks so much.
And Sidelines continues after this. Do not go anywhere.
Pride and passion drives the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. From 55 NCAA championship teams, 294 individual national champs, and counting. Who's next? Make the PSAC yours. PSAC Proud is winning in athletics and in the classroom. Over 3,100 PSAC student athletes are honored as scholar athletes. It's a perfect mix of athletics and academics. It's time to make the PSAC yours.
While this semester will look a little different, we're taking steps to promote a safe campus environment and to help us return to normal faster. Please help us promote a safe campus by washing your hands with soap and warm water for at least 20 seconds. Use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer when soap and water are not available. Additional hand sanitizer stations are available throughout campus. Sanitation of high-touch areas around campus have been increased and advanced cleaning techniques have been implemented to limit the risk of transmission. Remember to disinfect personal items like cell phones, computers, and workspaces often. Mounties, we're all in this together.
It's all part of Mother Nature's perfect blend, the keystone of the Keystone State. Visit Potter Tioga, a 2-county scenic outdoor haven conveniently located, yet worlds apart. A place where you can kick back, unwind, and forget about the pressures of life. Disconnect and reconnect with your friends, family, or even yourself while surrounded by nature's beauty. So start planning your adventures today at visitpottertioga.com.
Welcome back to Sidelines. Let's talk basketball now as we have head coach John Szentesy joining me at the desk. Coach, thanks for stopping by.
Sure, anytime, Drew.
So right around the corner is the start of the season. Obviously, really in the same boat that a lot of the fall sports were in. It's been a long time since your athletes were able to play a game. What has been the hardest thing about that long break?
I think the unknown has been very difficult from the time of COVID kind of closing things down. We really didn't know what was next, and it seemed like what was next was always different than maybe what you thought, and you're constantly trying to readjust. And I think the unknowns is really what was stressful for everybody. If we would have had a date and knew when we're going to be able to practice, when we're going to play a game, when we can lift, and all those things, it would have made it a little easier. But those dates and times tended to change, so we just had to roll with it.
And obviously, in that year, it was also difficult too because a lot of the fall sports get the benefit of being outdoors. You guys had more restrictions on you, just the nature of the game being indoors and having to work out. What were those challenges like, trying to figure out how to get practice together, to try and work together in an indoor setting, first of all, and then with a lot of players not back on campus?
In the past year, you mean?
Yep, in the past year.
It was challenging because we had maybe half of a team in the fall semester, and then in the spring semester, it was some of the same guys, but a couple different guys decided to come to campus. And having online classes was a challenge altogether for them, but not being on campus, certainly from a basketball standpoint, was difficult. So we really had to adjust a lot. The masking indoors was tough when you're working out in the gym and trying to sprint and run and do those sorts of things with a mask that's getting soaked and having to bring multiple masks to practice and workouts was certainly challenging there. But everybody was in the same boat in terms of our team. I mean, it wasn't one guy could go without a mask. We all had to do it. So it did get a little bit easier as we got a little bit more used to it.
And so with that long break of not playing, how hungry do you think that this team is to just get back in and get going again?
Extremely anxious. Anxious is the word that I've heard the most from our team, and I think that's true everywhere. The coaching staff isn't an exception to that at all either. Everyone's anxious to get going. Everybody wants to be 100% healthy and have everything, clicking at day one on November 12th when we tip off. Obviously we're a very young team, so we're going to have a lot of learning to do, which we'll continue to do each day from now till the end of the season.
And the other thing that I want to talk about that is the unfortunate, anytime a pandemic, there's no perfect timing for this, but having a new team, having a lot of people graduate, bringing in a lot of new pieces, and then losing that year and bringing in more new pieces, that's a lot of new there. What is the challenge and kind of the way that you're trying to work fitting all these new pieces together?
I think from my standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, is trying to stay patient, staying patient with the process of getting better every day. There's things in practice I see that I think we should be better at already, or know a little bit more about and don't, but I have to consider who we're dealing with. It's not their fault. We're very young, and we have 2 players coming back this year that have dressed in a Mansfield uniform before, in Jazz Farrell and Eli Alvin. They're the only 2 that have actually dressed for a game for us. So Marcus Friend and Gabe Perez and Jordan Hernandez, I'm sorry, he dressed and played games too. So we're very young. We have 5 players who have actually played in a college game before. So we've got to be patient. It's going to take time. It's going to take repetitions, and that's the way we're approaching it from a coaching standpoint.
So approaching that, what are some of the things? Obviously, it's been very early in terms of practices, but what have been some of your focuses in those early practices?
I think our work ethic, making sure we show up and work hard, bring physical effort every day. The weight room they've been great in. They've been bringing the physical effort. Now it's let's focus on the details and make sure we're mentally focused in each practice, which gets a little more difficult with youth. That'll come with time. But I'm real happy with the effort so far, and I think we have a lot of unselfish players that just want to win, and that should hopefully equate to some more wins. Yeah.
So that too, a lot of people kind of underestimate the mental aspect of, especially basketball and the game and gelling together. How have you seen that all those new pieces with all different types of things have started to gel together?
It's certainly, like I said, it does take time once again, but when adversity hits, when a team's going through adversity in practice, if the red team is beating the black team in practice, the black team's got to buckle down. They can't get selfish. They can't become, all right, I'm going to get us a bucket right now. We've got to stay focused and stay together, run our offense. And typically the team that does that the most is the one that's the most successful on the scoreboard, but also defensively when they play well together. Move the ball on offense, we're a lot more successful. So I expect to continue doing that, and everybody's, understanding mistakes are going to happen. We're all going to make mistakes, and how we rebound from those mistakes and move on is really going to determine our success.
So this early in practices, has there been anyone who has really stood out to you, or someone that you have kept your eye on?
There's quite a few. Right now, there are a lot of guys I don't know if I'd hesitate in putting any one person into the game. And I'm not sure I've been able to say that in the last couple of years, where I feel like we have a lot of pieces. And certainly to this point, Justice Smith has stood out in practice as being extremely talented in a lot of ways. He's still very young, and that's the thing about it. It's been probably close to 900 to 1,000 days since he's put on a uniform to play in a college, in a game, whether, high school game. So it's been a long time for him. I think he's hungry. And we've had a couple minor injuries so far to guys that I would maybe project as being starters. So there are some things we're just trying to get healthy again. And it's fortunately, as of now, it's not major. And I think we could be all right. Scott Woodring certainly it has been a hard-working guy. everything and then some, that from what Coach Judson told me through the recruiting process about Scotty. He does everything right. He works extremely hard. He's gotten a lot better in the last year. So we do have some really nice pieces that I'm looking forward to working with this year.
And looking at the season, it's early, so it might be a little early to ask this question, but what are your goals for this squad? What are some of the things you hope to accomplish with this unit?
The PSAC playoffs. I mean, that's a minimum. I mean, that is we've talked about it many times. That is our goal. It's not a matter of being the #1 seed in the PSAC tournament or the 4 seed or the 6 seed. If you're not in it, you can't win it. So let's get in those playoffs, and now we'll go from there. It'll be a new season once you get into the playoffs. So that is our #1 goal, and it's not going to change. I don't see that changing at all. We have 4 competitive non-conference games against teams that all played a season in 2020-21. One of Nyack making the NCAA tournament. So we do have some good non-conference schedule. We do have a scrimmage with Lemoyne up on the road at Lemoyne. That'll be a good test for us prior to going down to Virginia State and Virginia Union. So it's a brutal schedule. It's a very brutal schedule, but I think those non-conference games, the conference challenge and scrimmages are going to help us, reach our goal of making the PSAC playoffs.
All right, Coach, we're definitely looking forward to the season coming up, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Drew. Appreciate it.
And Sidelines continues after this. Do not go anywhere. While this semester will look a little different, we're taking steps to promote a safe campus environment and to help us return to normal faster. You'll notice students and employees wearing face masks that cover their nose and mouth in order to keep you safe. We ask that you do the same to protect your fellow Mounties. Face masks are required inside all campus buildings and should be worn when visiting locations outside of campus as well. Mounties, we're all in this together.
It's all part of Mother Nature's perfect blend, the keystone of the Keystone State. Visit Potter Tioga, a 2-county scenic outdoor haven conveniently located, yet worlds apart. A place where you can kick back, unwind, and forget about the pressures of life. Disconnect and reconnect with your friends, family, or even yourself while surrounded by nature's beauty. So start planning your adventures today at visitpottertioga.com.
And that's going to do it for us, folks. To stay up to date on all things Mansfield Athletics, head over to GoMounties.com. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.